chairing.
Okay, well, I'm opening the zoning board of adjustment hearing for December 15th, 2021. We'll take roll call. Ray Damaris,
Here remotely?
George Bailey,
Present.
Dave Whidden,
Here.
Paul Thibodeau,
Here.
Cheryl Huckins here. Okay, our first case tonight is a request for an extension. And that is case 223-24 and 26-RC-18 EBAVA variance. Owners are Rina Meir and Carol Ledoux and Paul Helfgott. The applicant requests a variance from Article 19, Table 1 to allow conservation subdivision in the regional commercial zoning district on Route 125 on a 212 plus or minus acre lot, map 223, lot 24 and 26.
You can come up to the mic to speak. Just for
Applicant.
clarification on this one.
Yep.
The land has been transferred since then. It is now,
Joe
Joe owns it
Falzone
now.
is going to speak.
the approval that he got for the variance was given under that other name before. Now, the planning board has already approved this as a conditional approval. It's all going forward. The only thing holding it up is the state approvals that we're waiting for. So it's almost like a fine line to whether this extension is really needed or not, but it was like, let's do the extension thing to make everything all clean and neat so that there is no trouble in the future.
So what you're telling me then, Madam Chair, is that the only difference between what we approved the last time and what we have now is the name of the owner?
Yes. And it's an extension because he's waiting for state approval.
I understand that part, yes. I just saying that's the difference between it.
Joe Falzone.
If you have any questions.
How long was the variance for?
Variance is only good for 2 years because of the way the state law works.
Okay.
But he kind of vested the variance when he got his approval.
Yeah.
That's that fine line to, was it vested, was it not, you know, that type of thing. So this is just to make everything all clean and neat is what it really amounts to. Even though the time's gone by a little bit, the attorney felt it wasn't because we're just trying to make everything, you know. I mean, Joe can answer a lot of your questions for you too.
In reality, what happened was that it took longer to get the permits and they still haven't got them all yet. And so what that's done, that's eaten up his time. That's why, so they don't want to take a chance that it comes in within a month beforehand. So if they run out, that's where they're at, right? Got it. In the meantime, there was a new owner, so that's why I questioned the name.
Use hasn't changed and there's no change in zoning.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone have any
Did
questions?
I miss anything?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Falzone?
I do not.
I do not.
How's it going?
Okay,
Permits.
Well, you know, when the COVID hit and people started working at home, to give you an idea, the DOT permit's been in for 18 months. 18 months. And I can't get AOT till I get DOT. And then when I get AOT, then I can get state subdivision. Crazy.
open public hearing on this, which I guess we've already kind of done. And is there anybody here to speak for this?
You're participating virtually, and you'd like to waive your comment, you can raise your hand, or if you're on your phone, you might need to press *6 and speak up, which will be recognized by the chair. Acting chair.
Anybody? Okay, is there anyone here to speak against this?
Same deal, if you're participating virtually, raise your hand or speak up, wait to be recognized.
Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the hearing and, yes, George.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay,
If the chair will accept it,
I will.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2-year extension request on 23-24 and 26-RC-18-CBA variance.
I'll second that.
Let's
How
vote.
do I vote? Aye.
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 I vote aye also, and for the record, make it be noted that I am a member of the select board.
And I vote aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, to backtrack a little bit, for this case, there's a note here, it said board to vote for chair and vice chair, and George had expressed that he'd like to wait until Ray is present, and I can agree with that.
If that's the case, if not, if Mr. Damaris is willing to accept it over the airwaves here, I'm willing to do that also.
We can push it to next month when I'm there. That's fine.
Okay,
Thank you, Ray.
everybody okay with everybody for that? Do we have to vote on that?
Just consensus.
Okay, consensus.
I sure like to meet you face to face and talk about you, Ray.
Okay, we'll move on to Article 2. Tori Bianchi from 93 Toland Road is asking the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a rehearing on the issue of the home occupancy for the following case under RSA 677:2. Motion for rehearing the following case. 220-54.16-GR-21-ZBA variance. The owners are Robert and Alice Russell. Request by applicant for a variance from Article 7.3 home occupation to continue running a home occupation that is non-compliance in the general residential zoning district by Brendan A. O'Donnell Esquire, DTC Lawyers, 164 New Hampshire Route 125, Unit 2, Merrimack, New Hampshire. Okay, I'm going to open the hearing.
Cheryl, I think this is just a vote amongst the board, discussion and vote amongst the
Oh,
board.
okay,
So,
All right.
and I think we're kind of in agreement that we should have a rehearing in January on this case.
I'm not 100% in agreement with that.
I'm
I'd
not
like to
either.
discuss it a little more.
okay.
So my question is, that's fine if they want a rehearing, but I'm not sure what it's about. And my feeling is the rehearing should be about whether or not we determine that the home occupation is,
They're basically asking you to reconsider that decision. Basically what they're doing.
but usually, isn't it like shouldn't the rehearing question whether or not our determination of the home occupation was done right or wrong?
That will be discussed, I think, if we grant it.
Wow, the letter that was
Discuss
sent,
that now?
Yeah, I
the
think.
letter that was sent by them laid out why they thought you should rehear it. The letter that was sent by them.
Yeah, we have a request from a butter.
Can we discuss that now?
Yes. A request from a butter. She didn't feel that she was heard. There's also someone on the phone. I'm not sure if it was her or not. That
It was her.
was her. All right.
I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, RSA 677:2. And I think I read it at the last meeting, and I'll read it again. It says, motion for rehearing the Board of Adjustment, Board of Appeals, local legislative body decisions within 30 days after an order or decision of the zoning Board of Adjustment or any decision of local legislative body and or Board of Appeals in regard to its zoning, selectmen, any part of the action or proceedings, or any person directly affected thereby may apply for rehearing in respect to any matter determined in the action or proceedings or covered or included in the order specifying in the motion for rehearing the grounds therefore. And the Board of Adjustment, a Board of Appeals, or the local legislative body may grant such a rehearing if in its opinion, good reason therefore is stated in the motion. And that is the part I bring forward because they do have good reasoning in their letter for a rehearing.
And what is that?
That is that they weren't heard.
They weren't allowed to speak. She didn't have a chance to speak. We also had 3 letters from abutters that were not discussed, and we had an attorney sitting here that we didn't listen to. He didn't even speak.
He didn't speak. When she wanted to speak, she wanted to address the variance, not the home occupation. The home occupation section was open to public comment, and she did not comment on it. Vice chair closed that meeting. We voted on the home occupation and passed it, which made the need for variance moot. Do I have that all right? Everybody agree with that?
No, because
That's,
she addressed
That's
the
what-
home occupancy here, and she didn't say anything about the variance.
Well, the argument that was, the way I understood it, was there was one abutter that started to speak against it. And they were told they'll have a chance to be heard later.
Yes.
We want to be able to address it to the, they were talking about the variance.
Right, they were arguing,
And that,
They were-
the rest of the people, right, and then the rest of the people in the audience that were here, that were against it, felt they were gonna have a chance to speak when they were discussing it, and they didn't realize that by not speaking, they weren't able to give their opinion. So they felt they were gonna have a chance to speak later, so they were waiting for their
And you
chance.
didn't get that.
And then the other people that were allowed to talked about all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with it being a home or not being a home occupation, but they were allowed to speak on all the stuff. They weren't cut off. That was what the argument was about.
okay,
So with that
I
said,
understand.
they get a fair chance to speak that's what you guys are determining. Was it fair and reasonable? Not that, was it open, but they didn't understand? Probably could make that decision, but if you're saying what's fair and reasonable, and that's how you want to address it, that's a
Okay. I did watch the video
I did,
of
yeah, I did too.
the meeting.
3 pages of notes on it.
Why don't you go ahead?
Well, let me ask a question to you guys here. So the home occupation is section 7.3 through 7.37, correct? And then it stops there. We see from this attorney of ours states, talks about number of employees. Right? The number of employees goes to 7.4, home business. It's not, it's at all in
We would
7.4.
address
Yeah,
if
so
we
This
grant
is
this
not
hearing.
about whether it was a home occupation or not. This
Fine,
is about
okay.
the process that you went through. Was there a flaw in the process to where this should be reheard? Is what the discussion is supposed to be about tonight.
That's all right. I'm trying to gather some basic.
Okay.
No,
information.
as I said earlier, it's, well, I'll tell you what, the man invented paper should be shot.
I agree with Mrs. Bianchi. I
I do.
feel that they were totally dissed and I really.
Yeah, I mean, even in her complaint, in the second paragraph, she talks, but we're not given the opportunity to share opinions or speak regarding issues at hand. We were told that the board was only hearing comments regarding the home occupancy permit and the fact that Gary Imbride of 20 Mill Road, as direct butter, was told that his comments were not pertinent to the current discussion, and his comments would be heard afterwards. But
Well-
that didn't take place, and so that's what they're talking about now. So when you go back to the RSA,
But wait,
go ahead, I'm
so
listening.
his comments were all based on the home business,
The variance.
the
He
variance.
kept using
His
the word
comments were all
variance.
based on the variance, not on the home occupation.
I think he used the wrong termination. I mean, he was really addressing the home occupation.
But whether he was using correct verbiage is not what we're asking. It's not what we're here to decide today. We're
I
here to
understand.
decide
Yeah.
if her letter has credence.
That she wasn't allowed to.
And
You believe that's what they thought because of how the process went. I'm not saying Ray did it wrong.
no,
I'm just
no,
saying-
God forbid, no.
Did it lead to the point where they believed they were gonna have a chance later on that they didn't get?
He's right there.
I think
Where do we go next?
We.
Yes, I thought I was pretty clear with
Madam
the
Chair
meeting.
should answer this. Where do we go next, Madam Chair?
Next,
Ray.
will we decide
Hey,
whether we're
can I
going?
speak Before we go, I think I was very clear with the meeting. You know, where we were, how we were handling the meeting, how everything was broken up, when people could speak, when they could not speak. I thought it was very clear. So the problem here is that this could potentially get kicked back to us if we don't rehear the case. I really don't want to rehear the case again, but I think it could get kicked back from the court if we do not rehear the case. So it's just, the only thing we're dealing with here tonight is whether or not she had a chance to speak. If she was confused, whatever it was, it may not have been fair, but I think we should give her an opportunity to speak and rehear the case. Again, I'd rather not do it, but I think that's where we have to go, is my
I
opinion.
agree.
That is the issue. Because the court will tell us to rehear it.
So, all right, so we need to be a little bit clearer about what we're rehearing here, and that is strictly the home occupation at this time.
It's the whole application.
Well, no,
If
the
you
whole-
change
yes.
your mind, then it would go into the variance, because you gotta look at the whole application.
So this will be as if that meeting never occurred.
Correct. Well,
Start
not
over.
necessarily.
Well,
Well,
you're
not
right.
necessarily. We can accept some information as
You
already
can-
on the record, right?
Bring
You
in,
that up public.
Yeah, we have a lot of information from that first meeting.
I read that. We can enter the minutes and what was decided. Okay. All right. So where do we go next, Cheryl?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the letter for rehearing.
Do I have a second?
No, we make a motion for a rehearing, George. To accept. well,
Oh, I'm
accept
sorry,
it.
making a motion for rehearing, yes.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I'll
On-
second that.
On,
Date, you're gonna pick a date?
on this, 22054.16-GR21-ZBA. Yeah, waiver, that's,
Right.
that's my.
And they'll be
motion.
on January 19th.
All right, now we have to
2022.
decide when. If we're gonna do this, January 19th will be the next.
The next meeting, yes.
Next meeting. Okay, and
Yeah.
then part of that motion would be, the reason was you feel that impression they didn't get a chance to. voice
Well, there was
their
some
opinion.
confusion,
You gotta
yes.
give the reason, you gotta give the reason.
Yes, yes.
George, you're going to,
Butters were not, Butters did not,
And also in my motion, section, RSA 677, semicolon 2, also is the reason we're using it here as noted in the first paragraph.
But the more
Thank you.
thing is that you want to make sure that all parties feel they had a reasonable chance to speak.
yes, that's.
Okay. I
And
think that needs to be in the minutes for the reason.
and if
Thank you,
there's
sir.
any confusion with the electronic, they should show up in person. Right?
I would also like to make, can we vote on this motion? I can make another
We
one?
haven't had a second yet.
Oh,
I did. I seconded it, Cheryl.
All right, seconded. All in
You can
favor?
still have discussion. if you
Still
want to have
discussion.
yeah, okay.
yeah.
Can we add that this has, not to have a virtual on this meeting? I guess that would be up to, can Connor answer that question? Just make it all
State
a,
law.
No, it's up to you five. So
Isn't it a state law right now? No?
I would be
I'm going to
very,
be appearing virtual, I think. I'll be out of state.
I think with this particular case, I think we should have a virtual option. Just
very well.
because of the, the sensitivity of the case.
Draw my
I think
question.
people should have an electronic option.
And two things. One, the
Yeah.
town switched over to the virtual meetings during the pandemic because that was the state law. That have virtual meetings so business could continue. The town continued to offer a hybrid option of in-person and virtual because we received really positive feedback from folks being able to access the meeting, not only the public, but also board members. The second thing is that I think, and it doesn't directly go anyway, I would caution the board away from making a decision based on a specific case, whether or not you're going to have hybrid. The board, in a general sense, can decide, hey, we should continue to have virtual meetings, or hybrid, virtual in person, get that or practice for all meetings, but not pick individual. But ultimately, it's the decision of this board whether they want to allow any virtual participation at all. I think it's good practice. I think it's good government. I would encourage you to continue it. But whether you have that discussion now or in a future meeting, it is definitely your decision.
and another concern is with,
I took it out,
excuse
took it
me,
out of my motion.
with COVID, we don't know where we're going to be. I mean, we could all be locked down again, so we may need to do virtual.
I agree.
And if we state that it has to be in person, then we can't hold that meeting.
If we hear this on the next meeting, is that going to give enough time for butters notices?
Yeah.
I figured you had already thought that through, but I just thought I'd ask.
That's the reason why the legal process gives you 30 days after you make the decision, because we would have to re-notify all.
All right, George, your motion's still up in the air?
No, Ray seconded it.
Ray seconded.
Ray second it?
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
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 I'll add that I think it's a shame to have to put the applicant through this whole process again. His attorney back.
I agree with you, Paul, but from a legal thing, it has to be complete. It's gonna get to
Understood.
court and it's gonna get kicked back. I mean,
I voted aye, but I don't.
all
We
right.
never like to go back and redo what.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 17th.
One more
20.
case.
One more
We
case,
do?
George. Geez, you're anxious, George.
Oh, I didn't, oh,
Okay, one more case. Case number 3, 216
I've been all over that, but
16-1-DR/HCO-21 ZBA special exception for owners of Marion Marina Bassett. request by the applicant for a special exemption from Article 4.1.2 lot frontage permits lot access on the side other than the street frontage. Map 216 lot 1 on Parker Mountain Road on a 10.7 acre site in the general residential and the highway commercial overlay zoning districts by Scott overlay zoning district by Scott Frankowitz, Land Consultants, 683 T, First New Hampshire Turnpike, North New Hampshire. So open the meeting on that, open the discussion on that. Would the applicant like?
If you would, good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Hyde. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Shane Carter, who's here with me. Just one amendment to the application. Time that we made the application, Mr. Carter was under contract, but has since closed on it. So he does have a letter of authorization that was provided to you as part of the packet to speak for the owners, but he now is the owner, so that authorization is moot. Mr. Frankowitz, unfortunately, is at another meeting this evening in Northwood, and he should be here, but he said he may not make it in time if you guys move along quickly. So I will present for the applicant. As the acting chair read, the request is for the special exception that is permitted pursuant to your ordinance 4.1.2 to permit side access to lots rather than access over their frontage. As we have in the narrative, there are steep slopes and site distances to contend with in that area where the road is a fairly heavily traveled road and there is a bend in the road. It is suggested that we seek the special exception as a result of that highly trafficked area, since granting of the special exception would provide access to all three lots, house lots, but would permit them to enter and exit the roadway in a single area to reduce as much as humanly possible the potential for roadway accidents in that area. Going through requirements for the special exception, no detriment to property values. As we indicated, the location of a single driveway will minimize the potential for motor vehicle accidents in the area, which will improve neighboring properties to the extent that there is any that are improved. I believe there's one in that vicinity, but obviously it'll improve the value of the properties themselves, the three lots that will be created in the subdivision. No hazard will be caused to the public or adjacent property on account of potential fire, explosion, or release of toxic materials. As we know, automobile accidents sometimes result in fire, often in release of toxic materials when there's a collision that has antifreeze and the like, oil and fuel leaks, and certainly explosions. So minimizing to the greatest extent possible the likelihood of multiple car accidents in that area with multiple different driveways meets that number two. Creation of traffic safety hazard, obviously that's the whole point of us requesting it. We want to reduce as much as possible potential for there to be traffic accidents with people entering and exiting the roadway in that area. Like I said, it's heavily traveled given the type of road. No excessive demand on municipal services and facilities. Again, all kind of tied back to, you know, the less likelihood of a car accident, the less likelihood we have to have police and fire come out there. And then the proposed use will not result in the degradation of surface groundwater across the street. On the other side of the property is the isinglass. The area where the proposed driveway would be situate, as depicted on the plan, is the furthest point away from the water. There's the biggest amount of land buffer on the other side between the roadway and the isinglass. So siting the driveway there so that any runoff would be collected at the base of that driveway rather than at three separate driveways would minimize any potential of runoff other than what would be on the street ordinarily. We've included the pictures. Mr. Frankowitz included the photographs that he took of the area. The other issue that we have, aside from that site distance, is that the driveways on at least two of the contemplated lots would be fairly steep, which is why they decided it would be better to have a single lower grade driveway to the street rather than having people have to come down a steep driveway to meet the street or exit the street. So if there's any questions that you folks have for myself or for Mr. Carter, please feel free to ask.
This driveway is going to come off Parker Mountain Road on the side of it.
Two lots that aren't having their frontage, it's real close, that means that it's real steep.
Yeah.
Yeah, real steep.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. It's not a big deal, but the numbers on this map, 1, 2, 3, and 4, with the balloons and the arrows, right at the entrance of that driveway.
Yeah.
What are those? What are those?
Those show you which photograph in the
Oh.
application where that's taken from,
Okay.
and then the arrow shows you where they were standing and which way the camera was pointed.
Okay.
I mean, the application actually wants photographs from all around the property, but behind, everything on the back of the property is wooded to show you anything but a lot of trees. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't help you figure.
No, that's fine.
So that
Thank you.
answers, so photo 1 shows your telephone pole, which is not on the survey, and I don't care about that, but it's on the side of the street that you, it's directly across from the driveway entrance you're proposing to create.
That's right.
How you bring power up, are you going underground up that driveway
Yes.
to service all 3 lots underground?
So you're gonna go across the street with a pole and drop from there?
Well, the pole's on our side of the road.
It's right there.
Oh, okay, so looking, oh, I see, I got it.
And a curiosity question, on this slope. I haven't driven out there and looked at, is that all vegetated, is that all trees on that slope?
Yes,
It's gonna stay that way, you think?
absolutely.
Yeah, that would look good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. My question to you is, you mentioned the word safety and it just perked something up. Now, as you know, it's supposed to snow up here, but here recently it hasn't snowed yet. And the reason I'm asking this question is, you're gonna have a homeowners association to ensure that that driveway is plowed all the way through to allow, yes, shaking your head, yes, but is there going to be something in the deed that when you sell the property that requires and belongs to the homeowners association to terminate, make sure it gets plowed? There's nothing harder when you get somebody as a new homeowner and they got to part with more money and they're going. So that's why I asked that.
could Answer that by the planning board's regulations, it would have to be on the plan and on the deeds as part of the conditions of approval.
So
It's
this,
part of a subdivision.
Did the planning board ask for that?
No, they do it on all of them shared by that. It's on the plan and it's on the deeds, the maintenance agreement and the whole thing. They do it on every time there's.
So then that will be included in the deed then.
Correct.
John, thank you very much. There you go.
And if he says yes, I'll be the one drafting it for him. I can tell you that the answer is yes if he says yes, and he the answer is yes, so the answer is
Right,
yes.
actually, but
Yeah.
if you do a shared
Good.
driveway by
Yeah.
subdivision regulations. it's important.
It also, just in my experience, I've been practicing real estate law it'll be 20 years in January. It's a lot easier for people who buy the house after the people that buy the house from the person that builds it to have a peace of mind that they don't have to worry about, fights with neighbors and
Yeah.
in the driveway and that sort of stuff.
Okay, and an off the wall question.
Exactly.
Who was responsible for the signage on 202? For the driveway, is there a clear 80 feet on the driveway be seen, or are you gonna have to post a sign notifying us that there was a driveway within that 80 feet to come? You understand what I mean?
It would have to meet the site distance requirement that's in the subdivision regulations before the planning board could approve it.
There you go. All right.
And sometimes that's cutting back vegetation or cutting back a hillside, whatever it takes.
I'm all set, gentlemen.
Nobody has any more questions?
I don't.
Just for curiosity's sake, have you done test holes and stuff out there already?
7.
Did you hit any ledge in that whole thing going up through?
No, sir.
That's
Oh, you're
lucky.
lucky.
Yeah.
Especially with that grade along.
Like that,
Oh, yeah,
you ask
yeah.
for a waiver to have overhead power because of.
That's why I asked him
Situation.
about it, because I've been through that where.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've had a ledgy subdivision and they wanted underground utilities. And I'm like, you guys are looking at my test pits, but,
Well, you hit that well.
test pits where we might be putting utilities.
Well, that's a good point. We didn't dig on the hill, right? And the slope. We did dig about 75 feet in from the road, right on where that shared driveway or road system was going to be. And we went down 5 feet with no ledge. So
There's
way more than
on that anyway.
power companies require for underground.
So,
Yeah.
either way, you
There's clearly ledge on the steep slopes, but we're
Yeah.
not going anywhere near it.
That's kind of unmistakable there.
Must have bought the only hill in town that didn't have you.
Well,
The hill does
you don't have for
land
ledge,
behind
you
it.
have, Volkswagen-sized boulders everywhere, so.
Yeah.
Well, that whole area of town does.
the BFRs, aren't they?
Yeah.
Big friggin' rock.
Yeah, they are.
Okay,
It's like the
Any-
PFH in my truck.
I knew you weren't
I-
talking about the Barrington Fire Department.
Well, the word Barrington means big rock. Anyway,
The only question I have is that the lot number 2 driveway length. I'm a little nervous about the length of that causing some potential for cars parking along the 16-foot paved driveway if there was like a party there or something. Blocking the lot.
that's a good
One.
question.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I mean, step further back. There's plenty of room.
Yeah,
to step-
that's what I'm thinking. If you push that one a little further back, like lot 3, and obviously lot 1 isn't gonna be a concern,
Right there at the end.
but lot 3 looks like it's kind of short and that could block out,
Lot 2, but yeah,
lot 2 is short, could block out lot 1.
yeah,
That's
that's a good.
create some hate and discontent.
Also, in your language, on that cross easement language, you could have something. Shared portion of the driveway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did the same
Yeah.
thing for one that I did in
Yeah.
Dover. I mean, I personally, I went a property that I owned in Dover and it was, you can't park anything. Boat, car, UPS vehicle, they gotta be on your lot. They've gotta be at your house.
On your
in-
side of the property line.
Not in
Right.
that side of the.
Right.
That's what you're
okay.
gonna do here.
Yeah,
That's
that,
probably something.
that kind of restricts access for lot 2 to have extra car parking if that were a little longer.
Yep.
Fill it up better.
What are you, an engineer or something?
that's
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that'll be determined at the planning board level anyway, right?
To have you on the board.
Dave, that's something that will be determined at the planning board anyway. They. something
Condition of
See that.
approval.
Well, it's
With
part of
a
the driveway.
background
sub-
like his, it
but
comes to
zoning
mind, right? He's an engineer.
Thought I'd bring it up.
Good question.
Parking on your grass. Okay, any more questions?
I have none, Madam Chair.
Anyone here to speak in favor of this application?
Could you come up to the table, just so and speak your name and your address? No, could you guys get up and let them have the,
Yeah.
because of how the, you could just sit in the seat.
Thank you.
This way,
Okay, thank you.
your name and address.
My name is Ken Newberry. I live on 27 Boulder Drive, so I know all about the boulders. All good things come to an end. What I considered my backyard is now this guy's property. So I know it like the back of my hand. It is very rocky. He's got his work cut out. I agree with what they're asking to do, even though it's unfortunate that that space woods, which wasn't mine, but it was nice. It was, forest. So that was kind of, we have a swath, we being part of the Fairway Heights Homeowners Association. There is a small swath that goes all the way to 126 behind my house and our neighbors, the Mid-Oz. So that cuts to the road, abuts their property, and there's probably about 10, 15 yards between my property and their property. So there is a conservation easement that goes that way and towards the golf course. I did see the surveys out there. I think this is probably something for the planning board, maybe the Conservation Commission, just to be sure, obviously Fairway Heights had surveys plotting those out. Now they have their surveys, and I trust, Hampshire Land Conservation, that they're doing their job, but that portion is something to question, but we're not here to talk about this. We're here to talk about what they want for a variance. I agree completely. That lay of the land, where they want to come in, it would be very dangerous. It could be, an environmental mess too. Be reminded that isinglass is a New Hampshire protected waterway, and you can't cut trees up to, I want to say 150 feet from that waterway. So there's not many choices to do so because it's protected. But that's a good thing because it's straight down and fauna to absorb stormwater. And again, with that, there's plans with impervious surface driveways to retain that stormwater. That's part of the plan. And I'm not too sure if that's in this meeting or the planning board, but definitely want some retention because if all that impervious surface just goes straight down that swale and into that protected waterway, that is a concern that would have to be addressed. But really, I agree with
the meeting is about that driveway and for safety wise, can't even envision cars turning on that curve for Boulder Drive. So I'm here to support what they want to do. You know, there's just 3 houses with 10 acres. It probably could have been 5. I'm not too sure on that. There is wetlands there. That's another thing that, but again, it's not my property. I shouldn't be snooping around back there, but it is, the conservation land is our property that goes to the golf course, to the 14th hole tee box right along the swale. So, and that's all wetlands, and it's protected, whether it was owned by Fairway Heights or not. So just the marking on the border. My question would be, and it maybe isn't this, I couldn't see the drawings too well, but from my understanding in Barrington, you need at least 2 acres, or it's a cluster development, you could, you know, have 10 houses here, acres and 10 open acres. But is there conservation land to the back of the lots? Do you know that?
The plan that was shown didn't show any. It's not required for a 3-lot subdivision. There are a buffer that goes around the subdivision you're in because it was a conservation subdivision. There's a buffer that's required around it, plus the additional bigger open space that was part of your subdivision. That's a whole different process.
So in Barrington, if you want, if you're still not, I had an old friend, Ernie Belleville. I wonder if any of you know him. He was one of the initial townspersons. I was, maybe in the old days, if you wanted to buy a house, you needed 1 acre you could build on, the other acre had to be conservation. That's not a fact anymore.
Never was.
No.
Wow. What it is,
Never.
it's 80,000 square feet, which they call it 2 building acres.
1.84 acres.
Yeah, so typically what happens is maybe 40
I
to
know that.
60,000
I did
square
that for
feet
so
will give
long.
you your driveway, your house.
Yeah.
So being said that way, there's probably an acre that's not gonna be built on in all reality. But it's not a requirement in statute.
Is there, like, could they just go cut all those trees down on those 2 acres? Is no,
Their property, they can cut whatever trees they want on their
So that-
property. We can't regulate the trees they cut on their own property.
okay.
Is there a setback from the wetland that they can cut?
You can cut trees even inside the wetland in the buffer. Now, if it's, got the wetland, then you got the 50-foot buffer. That 50-foot buffer is a no dredge, no fill. So even the fill
Yeah.
extensions, if the house are built, you can't fill into it. You can't remove the stump. You can't do any of that stuff. But the trees cutting is actually regulated by the state. And during frozen ground, you can actually go in the middle of a swamp and cut trees.
I see, okay. Good.
As far as you're concerned with the runoff, if you look at Article 5 under the justifications, they do state that granting this special exception will result in focusing driveway runoff on a single area furthest from the nearest water body, which I assume would be Isinglass River, rather than having separate runoff points. It'll be 1 point as far away from the.
Instead of 3
And
driveways.
also,
Right.
for the planning board purpose, the road agent's gonna weigh into this. He's gonna make sure that there's no additional runoff going into the road. The ditch lines are good enough to handle all that, the culvert size correctly. All that stuff will be looked at as part of that whole thing with the planning board, because there's no way the town wants water running into the road, which is gonna cause an ice problem. And if they keep the water on that side of the road, and the ditch line is not getting across the river.
Right, right. And again, those 2 extra driveways would create even.
Right.
I support what they want to do. Hopefully it's a nice
If I can,
development.
just to speak to that last part, if we had to do all 3 driveways, 2 of them would be rather steep, and that water would run at a much
Yeah.
greater
Right.
velocity into the street, which obviously, whether it's frozen water at the end of the day, because this time of year, or it's in the middle of the summer and it's just water running off, cars are gonna drive through that. Whether
Right,
there's a single car accident or a hydroplane, that's what we're trying to avoid in that regard.
no doubt. So I agree with that, and hopefully it's a nice, nice development.
Thank you.
Thanks for your,
Thank
You'll be
you.
notified when they go in front of the planning board too.
okay, great.
Notification.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Does anybody participating virtually that would like to speak to the application, you can speak up or raise your hand and wait for your comment.
Don't hear anybody?
Number 1
Would the board like to
Yeah,
discuss this?
Sure.
I have nothing to discuss. I thought it was a well,
shitty pictures anyway.
Yeah, anybody here to speak against? Anybody online would like to speak against?
So I think it's a good idea. My only concern was that it looked like a private road, and that'll be addressed with all the planning board requirements. So I make a motion, we grant the equitable waiver.
second.
How do you vote?
Ray, how do you vote?
Ray made the motion, George.
Yes,
Yes,
I vote aye.
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 The ayes
Aye.
have it, unanimous.
Now, can I speak,
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Please.
Yes, you can.
I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes of November 17th, 2021.
Seconded.
All right. All in-
Bailey, aye.
Aye, thank you.
Aye.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes of November 17th, 2021, and we have a second. Would we like to vote on it?
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
Bailey, aye.
Whitten, aye.
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 Maris, aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, what time is it?
7:41.
7:41?
That wasn't bad, aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
If I don't see anybody anywhere else,